welcome to the Spanglish World Network on channel 250. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, also on Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Thank you for joining us tonight. We get to have an amazing time with a brother from another, my friend Bob Schumann. Now, what's remarkable about Bob, not only, I'll put it in perspective. Bob, how tall are you?
Used to be 6'5". I'm down to 6'4". I'm shrinking as I get older. So
Okay, Bob's 6'4" and I'm 5'8". So you can imagine when we're in a room together, it is the most amazing dynamic to see. But here's what I will tell you. You meet some geniuses at times in your life, and some people you can't relate to. This man has the most insane, huge heart. He is a servant leader. He is someone that for the better part of 4 decades has been serving communities, not just in service, but in the capacity of helping create more financial literacy. Why is this so important? Well, it's kind of something when you start to look at the world at large, we live in a space that requires a certain amount of money and values. And so instead of me walking you through this process, Bob and I are going to have this really amazing spirited conversation about a copyrighted content information piece that he has available to you that's actually called the 7 Forces of Money Mastery. This is something he put together to help create insane levels of literacy so people have a better understanding as the world that they're living in, because there's a lot of misconceptions and there's a lot of misnomers. So without further ado, Bob, thank you, brother, for being here. I love you, my man, and it's such a pleasure to be able to have this time with you.
So thank you for the opportunity, Chuck. As you know, this is my passion. So I'm really, really excited to be able to talk about this. Thank you.
You're welcome, my friend. So what was the driver behind creating these 7 forces? What were you seeing, when you created these that you were like, the world needs this?
Criticism. So I had put these together. I've got a graduate degree, 3 graduate degrees, and one in languages and in capital markets. And the feedback I got is, Bob, these are way too abstract, way too complex. You got to make it for people who, 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade, and who have no concept. It's not just literacy, but even reading capability. So it's been about a 3-year project, and finally got positive feedback. And I'm happy. I hope I get feedback from people who I'm going to offer it away. I want feedback because I want to always make it better. But it's where it is now was trying to teach people finance. But I was doing it in the language of the Nobel laureates, and it wasn't relating to people. So I had to go back to my background as a minister, where I had to take abstract concepts and tell stories to make it come alive. So it's in sort of a conversational style and to get people to think. Have I answered your question?
No, brilliant. And again, that's wonderful. It's not about espousing information. It's about actually making it digestible.
Right. Well, it's getting people to change. So the research shows that literacy just like on my Facebook says, the man who doesn't read, this is from Sam Clemens, the man who doesn't read isn't any better off than the man who can read.
Right.
So there's a lot of people who are really smart, but they're terrible at finance. They've got all kinds of problems. So the purpose of this 7 forces is to get them to do something, to not just be literate, but to take action.
That's remarkable, and thank you, because action items. Life is about taking mammoth action. It's you can be a bystander or you can be active in it. So let's jump into it, because I know that the first principle is really it almost seems magical, and you actually have coined it mental magic. What is that? What is the premise behind mental magic?
Well, it starts with a question: what is money? And money. Milton Friedman, the great Nobel laureate who, won the Nobel Prize for teaching us that inflation is always and everywhere caused by an oversupply of money. And I got that question from him. What is money? And he says it's mental magic. It's whatever we believe either can hold value or measure the exchange of value. And as an example, he says, when it holds value, its money is an asset. It's anything you believe that's an asset. Or when it exchanges value, it's income.
Right.
And I've got all kinds of examples. Like the craziest one is the money, the stone money from the island of Yap. That's a big island in Micronesia, and the people there, they live in isolation. They don't have any access to gold, silver, anything like that. And for hundreds of years, and I think they still have it, money that is big lime rings. And they had small ones. They took boats, the Polynesian, they took boats to a island that's a couple hundred miles away, I think, to get this limestone that they could, because it's on coral, where they were, lava there, there's no even so soft stone. So this limestone, they put it in their boats and carried it all the way over, and then they would carve it into stone rings with a little hole on it that you could put on a stick or a bead or something like that. And the greatest story was the wealthiest family, on the islands, there was a huge one. They mined a big one, a really big one, traveling a couple boats, and it sank before it got to the island. But it's about a couple hundred years ago. Everybody got together in front of the tribal chief, and everybody swore that yes, this money was there, but it was at the bottom of the ocean. And so this family is still treated as the wealthiest family in the islands just because everybody believes it, even though he can't even show it.
That's a great story. I mean, and again, to your point, so if you're trading dollars for hours, you're basically, that's that barter system you're talking about. That's income. Yep. If you're putting it into a home or an investment, then it's exactly that. It's an investment.
It's an asset. That's right.
Yep. Holding value. So that's really cool because again, it's whatever people value, right, at that time. And yep. So if you're doing a barter system and you're trading for food, or you're trading for clothing, or whatever the case might be, so that would still be considered income at that point, correct? I mean,
then you're trading it, yes.
Yeah.
And that goes back in the founding of our country, Chuck. The original Americans, their money was they didn't, and even down in Peru where we were, gold wasn't money for them. For them, it was something to worship. But for the Indians, traded beads, for them, money, wampum it's called, was shells and beads. And they trade, and then beaver skins have been muscle, buffalo hides have been money, tobacco's been money.
Sure.
They didn't think they were being taken advantage of, and then they traded their land because they didn't think anybody owned that anyhow.
That was sacred. It's like who owns land?
The gods own that. So if they thought they were taking advantage of the white men who would pay money for something that nobody could sell anyhow. And in their belief system, it's all based on your values. You see what I'm saying? Exactly what you said. What do you value?
Right. And why do so many people fail then when it comes to, financial? Because again, if there's this mental magic to money, boy, your perception is your reality. So what transpires in actually helping to create that connection where they look at it as an opportunity or financial freedom? That's kind of a coined phrase that a lot of people throw around. I don't know too many people who are financially free. I know a lot of people who may be, in their interpretation, thriving or doing better than most or above the average. So what would you say to someone if they're going, Bob, that's great, but mentally I can't get my head wrapped around this magic thing? And it's like, well, is it really magic?
No, it's psychology. It's psychology.
Yes. And so that meaning that we give it is widely based on people's needs and whether or not they actually feel they have the capacity and capability to increase their opportunities. There's this age-old saying that progress equals happiness. I go, that's great, but what feeds progress? Possibilities.
Yep.
And that mental magic is actually being able to look and see what mental possibilities, what financial possibilities, what life possibilities. Is it a trade school? Is it being mentored? Is it as I was taught as a kid? The answer is always no unless you ask.
Right. Yeah, that leads to, what you're saying, the possibilities is what leads to innovation.
Mm,
And then of course values, the values have to do with, as we know, we talk about, there's, if we want money, it's because we think of how it will feel. And there's means values and ends values. Means values is what we want. Ends values is how we think it'll make us feel.
yes.
And that's where we have this huge conflicts. I grew up, for example, in a Christian home where the love of money was the root of all kinds of evil. It's harder
Mm.
for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to get through an eye of a needle. And so I had huge conflicting beliefs about getting rich,
Sure.
and God makes both the rich and the poor, that, whoa, so I don't even have a choice. And then, who of us don't have, how many of us has been told, let him who thinks he's, has look before you leap, right?
Right.
And then we got the value, he who hesitates is lost. Those are conflicting values. And
Completely.
so that's why this mental magic, the mind and the conflicting values, that's force number one. We have to break through that. We have, if I would say to your audience, if you don't have enough money, it's because emotionally you attach more pain to having it than you do to not having it.
Exactly. Exactly. And there is a fear of that. Some people go, well, what if I win the lottery?
Yep.
Most people who win the lottery end up broke.
Yep.
It's the most amazing thing because they don't speak to someone like yourself who's a fiduciary, or on the other side, they will start to succumb to trying to be the great givers. And then all of a sudden it's like they open the floodgates and they're like going, wow, I've got two nickels left. And what am I going to do with these?
Yeah.
Um, but this kind of raises, well, this goes into the second rule or the second force, which is making money. What does it mean to make money? Huh. Oh, well, are you printing it? Do you have a press out back? I mean, it's like going, am I
That's how the
seeing
government makes money. The government can print it. Right.
absolutely, but I'm not seeing your or my face, on a crisp 100. And so the point in being is that it's like making money kind of brings up another facet, which you brought up, which is what's the greatest asset you have financially?
Yes, that's how you've got a copy of it. The question I ask is, what's your most valuable, your most important asset? And it's your ability to earn an income. The
Mm,
economists call that, there's financial capital, that's money, real estate, and all that stuff. And then there's human capital, and that's
yes,
you and me. And we create wealth. Human capital is our ability to create wealth. How do we do that? I think that's your question, right? Is
it
how do
is.
we, yeah, we do that by creating more value. Your income, our income, my income is, we're all equal, I say, before God, in our value, but we're not all equal in the marketplace. And your income is sort of a reflection of the value that you're delivering in the marketplace.
Right.
So if you want to earn more, you have to use your unlimited capacity to create more value, to focus more, and to create more value for others. It's not your definition of value, but what do they value? Find out what they want. I always tell people, well, yeah. So I don't want to go too far. So
No, no,
am,
no.
am
But
I
the
asking a
golden
question?
right, no, but the golden rule compared to the platinum rule, right? Golden rule is
Yes.
treated the way you want to be treated. And oftentimes that's where people find and they limit themselves to
Yes.
the value that they believe they can attribute. But the platinum rule is treat others the way they need to be treated.
Yes.
And so when we take the time to build the rapport and understand and identify target audience, clients, who needs you, who needs what
Yeah.
you have and what you can contribute. And so I love this when you start talking about making money. It's like the currency is you.
Yep.
It's your values and your beliefs. But going back, it's this compounding effect between the mental magic and the making of the money,
Yep.
that it's like, because one can hold you back and one can elevate you, but they coexist together, right? It's not like just one
Yeah.
thing.
And I want to thank you. You mentioned probably the most important one. It's our capability to care, to love.
Mm, yes.
You know, and that's so my question I ask myself, what's the limit on your capacity to love and to care for people? That is probably the biggest value. If you can help people feel loved,
Yes.
you know, that's huge.
And there's a lot of people who have understood this from a behavioral sciences standpoint,
Yep.
psychologists, practical psychologists, but poets like Maya Angelou, people forget what you said, they'll even forget what you did. They'll always remember how you made them feel. And
That's
then
exactly right.
the other
Yep.
part to it, though, right, is that no one cares what you have to say until they know how
They
much you
know
care.
how much you care. Yeah.
And that human condition is something that I've found personally increases the value proposition, where people go, oh, they're not being strategic. They're not trying to game me. They're not trying to, they're not trying to use me. They care. I don't know why they care, but I can feel it.
Yep. They're not
I
trying to sell me something, they're trying to serve me. And
Right.
that's creating value.
Oh, I love this, man. I got goosies all over. It's just this is one of those things. My background's in finance, and so for
Oh,
years,
that's right. I forgot about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I start looking at this, it's like this makes so much sense. And but this next one is the one that just takes me over the top. This is the one because it makes it all relevant, and that is when you start to layer the magic of money, the making of money. Now it's, and I'm going to let you introduce it because you know it better than I do. It's the law of,
Risk and reward.
ooh, sounds so dun dun dun. Like and so it's like, so the rule is, and we've been brought up this way: the greater the risk,
The greater the potential reward. Yeah.
mm. And so we start to talk about scarcity models, but people's also ability, how much uncertainty can they comfortably live with?
Yep.
And it's like, ooh, okay. Ooh, I don't know, man. I just got this job. I busted my tail to get this, or I just got a promotion and I'm a little nervous. That they're just, the nails are coming off. And it's like, okay, wait. What are the beliefs that got you here? If progress equals happiness and you're seeing all this opportunity, what is it? Who are you being that allows you to negate risk and accept more reward? But isn't it almost the opposite? It's like, do you embrace the risk so that you can actually achieve more reward?
Yep. Yeah. That's because, and life is risky. I mean, that's
Yes.
part of, just if you're born, life is risky.
Good thing I was
And
hatched.
yeah.
No,
And
no, but to your point, so it is risky. So what helps hedge the whole risk and reward aspect? Because I know you talk about um, diversification, and that's like the thing that can help create some balance so that you don't have all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
right.
Like
Yeah.
the
So,
people in Indonesia that drop this large amount of pecunia or money into the ocean. I mean, it's literally buried treasure, and
right.
and they had all their eggs in one basket.
Right. So, maybe we can go back to, so there's so many ways I can answer that, because there's a whole science on risk management. And I used to sell insurance. Insurance is the number one tool for risk
Yes.
management. And so if we go back to force number two, what's your most important asset? If it's your ability to earn an income,
Mm-hmm.
you can buy disability insurance, those kinds, or you can diversify by learning many different skills. Does that make sense? That
It
way, if you
does.
can't do one thing, you can do other things. And that's the most important investment. I always tell people, your best investment is in yourself,
Yes.
personal growth and development, where you can develop many skills, and diversify it spreads that risk out. Can I tell a story here just to sort of
Oh,
illustrate it?
yeah, please do.
Yeah, so and I know it because my background as a minister. The Jesus, made a prophecy that the temple that was going to go down. There's a play on words there, but the little country of Israel almost brought down the entire Roman Empire
Wow.
because Egypt was the breadbasket of the world, the Nile River. And they didn't have ships like we did. They thought it was a flat earth. So they had what the Romans did to make sure that nobody could cut them off is they diversified. They had little boats bringing the grain up, but along the seashore, along the Mediterranean seashore, up to Italy.
Hmm.
And they built Caesarea has a harbor there. It's part of Israel. It was a man-made harbor that the emperor made, and the boats would dock there overnight. And when the Jews revolted, they took the Maccabees about 165 BC. They took control of Caesarea, and they cut off the grain supply.
Wow.
So even diversification couldn't protect them because they hadn't diversified their ways. They had it spread out in different boats, but they didn't diversify the different routes. They didn't have any other ways. They didn't know how to fly, and we're experiencing that right now in terms of everybody's learned that there's been a downside of globalization.
Sure.
We all need to, and we're going to go the other way now because everybody's learning we got to diversify our supply chains. China,
Yes.
we can't just have one supply chain. So just some illustrations of how diversification
Well,
manages risk.
and it's very poignant right now because, again, if you're bringing something over by sea freighter from China, the time is the currency because you're giving up something. The
Yep.
balance of it is if you want to air freight it, though, the cost to air freight is so exorbitant now. And even though fuel prices aren't where they had been, so it really is a global economy like what you're speaking of, and no different than the Romans. These types of transports are actually inhibiting to some degree. And the cost factor is part of it, the time factor is part of it, with lead
Yep.
times getting longer. So, but I love what you said, which was for those that may be in a position where they don't have the ability, there's no extra money, there's no discretionary income to buy insurance. Like insurance, they're like going, dude, we're trying to keep the lights on and put bread on the table.
Yep.
What you said, diversifying in skill set is huge. It's mammoth because again, at times there are people who think this is as good as it gets. And since you're the currency, it really does go back to the mental magic of are we worth it, number one?
Exactly. Yep.
And number two, do we have what it takes? And I go, you won't know till you choose to be it.
Yep.
See, there's this ideology of fake it till you make it. And then I'm going to
Yep.
say the mental magic is believe till you achieve.
Yep.
And that takes on a whole different premise. So thank you. I mean, this like really,
Thank
really,
you for
really.
taking it right back. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job of taking it right back to number one. It's all in here.
It is, and it's a stacking effect. So one doesn't
Yep.
exist without the other. This is probably going to be the one that's so foreign to most people, though, who are experiencing any kind of financial challenge or hardship. Again, those
Yep.
that are just getting by.
Yep.
And this next rule or law can be a little nebulous for some because we talk about it and they go, oh, well, you have these different buckets. And so you're gonna have your play bucket and then you're gonna have your like life bucket, which is where you're living right now and all the things that you need to live and thrive and strive. And it's like, okay. And then they go, hey, and then there's this other bucket, a savings bucket. And they're like going, oh, brother, please, are you crazy? Like, are you out of your cotton picking mind? No.
Yeah.
But savings, what is that? They're like, oh, saving is if I have leftovers, they're going in the fridge. Because
Yep.
that's my meal for the next two. It's like, ooh, that Qdoba, bowl, it's being split right in the middle. I'm gonna eat half tonight, and it warms up just right in the microwave for my lunch tomorrow at work.
Yep.
What would you
Yeah.
say that again? And it goes back to this, right?
Yep.
You used an analogy earlier today: squirrels and nuts. Love that
Yep.
one. So, what's the difference between the haves and the have-nots.
So yeah, and that's in the rule that the difference between the haves and the have-nots is that the haves keep some of the money that they save. Everything goes to somebody else. And that's what saving is. It's keeping some of what you earned. And this, Chuck, this is what got me into the industry. I was working on a PhD in biblical languages at the University of Wisconsin. And I laughed at my roommates. One was in finance, one was in engineering. You know, I laughed at their ignorance about the Bible and history and archaeology, and they laughed at my ignorance about money. And one of them gave me a subscription to Money Magazine. And I'll never forget one of the first issues, I'm going to age myself, was about this couple. They were one of the first people to come to the United States, you know, after Castro took over. A young couple that came here by boat with nothing on their backs but their shirts. I mean, they came here with absolutely nothing.
Right.
And they were featured on the front page of Money Magazine because they were in their 50s and they had a portfolio of $1 million. Now, how did they do that? They had no jobs. She went and got a job working as a maid in cleaning houses.
Mm-hmm.
And her husband had a friend, you know, they knew other people were there, who grew roses. And he said, you can go and take some of these flowers and you could stand on a street corner in Miami. And these, you know, businessmen will be driving past. And when the stoplight stops, they'll buy flowers from you to take home to their wife or to their secretary, you know. And so that's what they did. That's all they did. When she would work in these different houses, she worked for some very well people, and she heard one of them in particular talking about buying stocks. Now I'm getting into the other one, you know.
Yep.
That's the next force that's coming. But what she did, she told her husband, she'd listened to him what stocks, and she said, we're going to take $50, just $50 every, I can't remember, it was every week or every month, and we're going to set it aside. We're going to save it, just $50. And they became millionaires, and that's because of some of the other forces. So if they could do that without any, you know, shirts on their back, because whatever you don't, you know, if whatever you don't save, you're giving to somebody else. The only thing this is the difference between the haves and the have-nots. The haves save first and spend what's left. Does that make sense? They don't say what's left. They say, I got to save first and I'll spend what's left. Oh, did we lose you? Or am I off?
Yes. Yeah, I can still see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, Bob. I think
you're coming back now. So we had a little interference.
Okay.
It could have been mine. I'm not sure.
No worries. So what I was going to say is that what I've learned over the years is that paying oneself first and making sure that you understand that if you value everyone else but don't value yourself, then the challenge becomes is that, again, the magic starts to disappear because there's no longer ability to be able to feel relevant to anything that's going on around you. And there are so many folks in today's day and age, they'll make sure everyone else is fed first before themselves. And so I'm gonna get my soap for 1 second and just say this. Self-care is necessary. It is not selfish. If you don't put the oxygen mask on you, you become a liability to everyone else. If you're not taking care of your health, your vitality, body, mind, and spirit, that's part of the magic. If you don't feel well, your life is how you feel.
Yep.
So now I'll get off my soapbox now. So
no, I love that one. I love that one too. You know, sometimes people feel guilt about that, but
yes,
paid yourself first is no different than when they tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. It's not being selfish. You can't, you know, you end up, people who don't save, you end up being, they'll give for their children, but they won't save first. And I tell people, the last thing you want to do is be dependent on your children in your old age. Now now they have their children and they have to take care of you. And now in some cultures, that's good. You still want to do that, but you want to give them the ability to focus on their children. The best way to do that is to pay yourself first. Become financially independent.
Absolutely. And there's a difference between get to and have to.
Yep.
You get to take care of someone else.
Yep.
I don't want to be that burden where they have to.
Yep.
And they don't have choices, because then now the possibilities go away, or
Yep.
they don't necessarily go away, but they become curtailed, so to speak. And there's a lot of
Yep.
cultures that we know of. I come from an Asian and also an European background, and so in those types of families, multiple generations live together, and it's not uncommon. In America, it's been a very different exercise to watch ecologies of families and how they, kind of mix and match and what goes on. But I don't want to go off the tracks here. I want to come back to this, because in
That's a
my
big one. That we could go on that one a long time, because
oh,
that's part of it. Yeah.
it's huge. But this next one coming up really kind of brings it together. And you brought it home when you said she was listening to other people. And I use this analogy: if you were a fly, yes, that little critter that irritates most people and goes around horses. If you were a fly and you sat on the wall in Warren Buffett's office and you can actually understand what he says, and you saw when he bought stocks and you saw when he sold stocks, and you had an Ameritrade or a Schwab, or you had an account, an E-Trade account, and you bought when he bought and you sold when he sold, you might make a little something. You might not, you might lose a little something too. But with his track record, you'd probably end up ahead. Now, why is this important? Well, there's this eighth wonder of the world, as Einstein called it, right?
Yep.
And that would be what, my friend?
The magic of compounding.
What a beautiful, and this is not theory, this is reality. I mean,
Yep.
no different than E equals MC squared. This is as real as it gets.
Yeah. Can I use the one just here to tell you that? So I ask
Please.
people, yeah. So I used to say, be a percentage saver. Now I've learned that it's much better to tell people, which I asked to illustrate the power of compounding. What would you rather have? A penny doubled $1 million, or a penny doubled for 30 days? And almost everyone says to me, well, $1 million. Well, if you chose a penny doubled for 30 days, you know how much you'd have? It's on the thing. I can't remember. It's $5.1 million. That's
Yes.
the magic of compounding.
And that's the part that blows people's minds. Is they're like, well, but I can't, Bob, I can't, Chuck. I don't have, I go, you don't have a penny? You find pennies and walk over them.
Right.
You do. And so it's like, let's be real. Can we all just agree, everyone who's watching this simulcast tonight, we're going to take a moment and just be real and authentic with ourselves. And that goes back to rule one. And that is, are you exercising any kind of mental magic? Do you actually believe that you're worth the compounding of a penny a day? Ask yourself the question, because the truth is, if you don't feel worthy, then you're not. But if you feel like there's a possibility, game on, because now it's going to help take you to another level. This compounding is, talk about magic. I mean, you'd almost swear this was alchemy, like you're going to take a lead brick and turn it into gold.
I love the way you put that. That's where, again, the mental people have got to believe that they're worth more than a penny, a lot more.
And so, what do you say to someone when they get confused about compounding? Because they often think, oh, I got to be actively trading. I have to be doing all these different things. I have to be investing. I got to be, hustling to make a buck. And it's like, but don't you find that most people, when they invest properly, they're making money while they sleep?
Yeah, that's the power of it. You're not just using your human capital. Now you're using financial capital. And when you put a penny aside, and that's coming to the next rule. It's hard. These rules are so, they follow in order, but it's so hard to not get ahead of myself. But when you put, even in a bank, and you get interest on it, that's what I remember where I learned it when I got birthday gifts. I'd get a couple dollars, $1 here, a savings bond or something like that. And my dad took me down. This was, again, I think I was 7 years old, I think. And he took me down to the little town of Ballot, Minnesota, population 852. And he helped me open a savings account. And
wow.
And every time
that was a big deal. That was a big deal.
Yeah. and then I'd get it back, and I noticed that I got interest on it. And I thought, holy cow, I made,
You had a little
yeah, I've
more,
got
right?
more. I made money while I was sleeping. It's magic, you know.
It really is. And now, compared to where most savings and loans are, if you're going to put your money in an account, you're like, woo, I'm making a point on my money, or I'm making a half a point on my money. Or if you're in Japan, you're giving up points to have your money in the bank.
That
Because
may be changing with inflation. That's the good side of inflation. We're starting to get real interest rates now again.
exactly, exactly. But that all ties back to kind of macroeconomics, and that we don't live in just a closed society anymore. We're not, here in the United States, we get to it in many other, I'll say, civilizations in the world where they have affluent amounts of information. You can Google anything. You could take your phone and find data now. It's remarkable, remarkable. But to that point, in all of this, kind of ties a bow together on this. Because in order for us to be able to move forward, you've got to take kind of responsibility and accountability. And it comes to that one really simple word that's 3 syllables, that it's ownership. It's like, so what at the end of this all, you'll never earn your way. And I love what you say this, you'll never earn your way to wealth. You must transform from consumer to owner of the economy. And it's like, whoa, that is so prolific, but it's kind of a big concept. So how would
Yeah.
you chunk that down for someone, Bob?
Yeah. So the way I would do that is I'd hold up, one way is I'd hold up, a phone
Right,
and say, how many of you own one of these devices?
right.
And even in third world countries, people are, owning these things.
Sure.
But how many of you own the company, whether it's Google or Alphabet or Apple, that makes these things?
Right.
You're a consumer when you buy it. You're an owner when you become an investor, when you start owning business. And you can either start your own business, but that's the great thing about the beauty of capital markets now, and index funds, mutual funds, is you can be a couple dollars a day or a week, you can start buying hundreds and thousands of the best companies, publicly companies in the world. You can
Absolutely.
own them, and you can have their, how many employees do those companies have? Millions. And now those people are working for you while you sleep. Even if there's a great depression, those people are still going to keep working. They're going to earn profits, and they're going to be working for you while you sleep because you own companies, businesses, or their bonds. The companies pay interest, they issue bonds too, either one.
Absolutely. But perception is reality, right? So there are
Yep.
people going, oh, come on, Bob, I own this phone. I go, no, you use this phone. Because are you the one providing the service? Are you the one that's actually created an app? Are you the one that, but if you're using an app like TikTok, if you're using an app like Restream, if you're using an app like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever the case might be, for entertainment or for business, I go, well, do you own some of the company? It's no different than eating food. Someone will go to McDonald's and go, oh, I bought food today. And it's like, okay, great. So you own that food. I said, who prepared it for you? Said, no. So you're a consumer. You actually paid someone to feed you.
Yep. Now
Oh,
there are people, and I learned this from my son, who they can make money with this.
yes.
My son, for example, has a sleep thing, and he started posting these little videos of how he overcame this problem with sleeping. And next thing you know, he's getting money on it.
Yep.
But I would say it wasn't the phone that made the money. It was you, your idea, your human capital. And what you just did was you turned yourself into a business, making money while you sleep. So you
You,
became your own business owner.
you created value for someone else who
Yep.
has not been able to sleep well. You found a better way, maybe to
Yep.
explain it and to provide opportunity. So to your point, really the ownership comes in a couple different ways.
Yep.
Do you own the opportunity Do you own your ability to be able to see beyond the obvious? And this gets down to something too, and I don't mean to go off in the weeds for a moment, but this actually comes down to faith and dreaming. People go, "Oh, you're a dreamer. You're never going to amount to anything." And I go, "Yeah, Bill Gates. Yeah, Warren Buffett. Yeah, Stephen Jobs. Yeah, Elon Musk. Yeah." It's like, "Oh, I'm going to take over the automobile industry with an electric car." Are you out of your cotton picking up? Hey, I'm going to take on space. Screw NASA. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. So
He's
this,
launching more rockets than anybody right now. And so, what does it take? And I go, divergent thinking. Inarguably, if I were to talk to any single one of these people, they have an air of confidence about them. And it's around one thing in particular. They understand. They may not be the best looking, although Elon thinks he is. They may not be the most intelligent, but they understand the capitalization of talent. And what it takes is someone daring to dream, someone willing to go ahead and back it. And that when you bring these two forces together, it creates opportunity.
now,
Now,
can I add? Can I just? I don't want to
please,
interrupt you. I just because you got
no,
my
no,
brain going when you're thinking about this,
love this.
and this is part of the mental part too. When you talk about something, this is psychology too. When you talk about something, it's a dream. When you envision it, and this is all psychology too, it becomes exciting. And people never, never, never give up your dream. Start envisioning it. That gives you the motive, the why to follow through and to get out of this scarcity mode. Envision it. Envision what it would be like, and notice how you feel when you're
Yes.
thinking that way. And then the next thing, and that's what I'm too, I'm a certified financial planner. When you plan it, it becomes possible. People don't fail. People fail. What is it's the saying? Help me out here. People fail to plan.
Yeah. They don't plan to fail.
Right. They don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. So that's the
Yeah.
third step. And then the last step, this is again your confidence and the certainty. You schedule it. You make it a must. And then pretty soon when you start getting, so clarity is power, right? Chuck, we both know
Yes.
this. And when you get clear on what you're going to do and how you're going to get there, you've got power. And now you've got a plan and you'll start doing it.
This goes back to the human condition of creating great rituals and habits.
Yep.
And so it's so important. If you're going to build muscle, doing one curl is not going to get you there. If you're going to say, I'm eating healthy today, it's not one meal. It's what is the lifestyle. And there's this really simple fundamental rule, and it's a universal rule, and that is ordinary things done consistently produce extraordinary results. But I'm going to preface it with something. When you are in the right state of body, mind, and spirit, and you're exercising these ordinary things, it elevates the compounding effect of whatever it is you have committed to and engaged in. Because number one, you believe. So you're not faking it till you make it, you're believing till you achieve. You did not come out of the womb running. You stumbled, you fell, you crawled, you rolled on your belly, you rolled on your back, you cried like a baby because you were one. And as time progressed, and with encouragement, it no longer became about everyone else having to go, oh, good Bobby, oh, good Chucky, oh, you're making It's like, wait, I'm moving. I'm free. I have the ability to move my body, express myself, and to see how people are responding. Because I guarantee if you did something and people laughed, you'd do it again. And if you made someone smile, or you got a treat, or you got great conditioning, you do it again. This is where mental magic, you're going to hear no. I'm sorry, but I'm not. That lesson is going to create more fortitude in you as long as you are willing to live with the level of uncertainty that comes along with hearing no. Because it's not a no, it's just not yet.
Well, and Chuck, isn't that, again, I'm sorry because now
No,
you
please.
isn't that sort of what, when I'm thinking about, I'm part of YBL, your best life now is that's really influenced, right? I mean, that's why you did this, because it's who you hang around with. You know what I'm asking?
Yeah, well,
Isn't that
the top 5 people you spend time with is who you become.
right?
And so this becomes really imperative in the conversation, is that who's your peer group? You know, there's this concept, and I think it's Eckhart Tolle as well as Jim Rohn said this. He goes, tend the gardens to the weed of your mind, because if you are not putting in great content, and we live in a very a la carte world now, you don't have to watch TV. You get to watch programming that you are electing to watch that nourishes and feeds you.
Like this stuff, like this
this,
instead of
this is
TikTok, right?
your best life. YBL exists to help elevate and co-elevate people. We're not telling you what to do. Frankly, we're asking you to just look at the possibilities, the possibilities. And so I know as we're getting ready to wind up the show, there's one more rule, and this is, like you call it, the white elephant in the room, but we got to talk about it. And this is, at least in the United States and in most civilized countries, there's this concept of taxation or taxes.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, I mean, how much? Wait, I'm left with how little? The truth is, and we know this, all the amenities, the freedoms, the programs, all these different things, and there's many of them, give us the ability to enjoy some of the things that we have, and they come at a cost.
Right.
And so our governments make sure that we know that, hey, we're going to take our little, our stipend, so to speak. We're going to take our portion of it.
Yep. Yeah, that the last force is I will say that taxes are the elephant in the kitchen.
Yes.
In this country, it's always been bad. But in most countries,
right.
If you want to make progress, you got to get the elephant out of the kitchen. And in our country, we have my partner was a tax attorney. They call them the world's best tax shelters. You don't have to take your money offshore, take all kinds of risk. It's 401ks, IRAs. Every American has access to that. And that, by the way, if you're born in this country and you have Social Security, you're probably worth $500,000 just to start with. That's a financial economist.
Yep.
And then you add your human capital. If you're born in this country, you're probably a millionaire from a financial economist, because you have Social Security and you're earning, even if you're in 20,000 a year, the time value of that's the power. You have the power to earn at least $500,000. So you're a millionaire just by being born in this country.
Absolutely. But it goes back to the point you made just a few moments ago. Who are you aligning with?
Yep.
Who are your mentor strategists that have actually walked the talk and are living it and understand? And so as we're winding this up, I just want to say, check out your fiduciary and make sure, and there's 2 questions that Bob has that you need to ask anytime you're looking for a fiduciary. And Bob, those 2 questions would be what?
Number 1, ask them to say that I'm a fiduciary. To put, when you go an advisor and say, will you function as a fiduciary? And if they say yes, will you put it in writing? That's the thing. So make sure they say put it in writing and what they're going to do. Number 2 is, do you get paid? Do you get compensation from anybody else? And if they say, well, yeah, I get for selling these products, then they're not pure fiduciary. If you're a true fiduciary, you should be paying your advisor, and that should be their only source of income. And our website, that's my mission. We've made it possible for people to get our advice for, I think it's $49 a month, $39 a month or something.
That's
I can't
amazing.
remember what it is. Yeah.
So Bob, give us that website real quick, because we want people, as they watch this back, to be.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's www.planandact, PLANANDACT. Because remember, a plan without action is nothing. So planandact.com.
There you go.
Lots of free stuff. We get a free account. We have all this stuff is, a lot of stuff that we give away free just to help people get started.
That's remarkable, brother. Bob, I just want to say thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure. You are a gift, and thank you for sharing all of your copyrighted content. We're going to make sure that we broadcast this out on all the social medias. So as we wind up, thank you, my brother. And this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check it out for all news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it.
Thank you.
Thank you.